Today we are going to make a Depression era cookie recipe. And if you haven't had these before, you're in for a treat. Everyone talks about chocolate chip cookies. My favorite is not chocolate chip cookies. It is peanut butter oatmeal. And these are Depression era because these had a lot of the things that people already had in their kitchens, things that were not rationed and things that they had on hand. So let's get started. This recipe calls for 2 sticks of butter and 2 eggs. I like to cream those together before I start adding all of my dry ingredients. It also calls for 1/4 cup of milk, 1/2 cup of peanut butter, and then I use gluten-free, so you can substitute with regular if you prefer, but 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, 1.5 cups of oats, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we're going to mix this all together. And my mom always froze her cookie dough, and then we could just pull it out of the freezer and dip it out of containers when we were ready to go, even back then. And again, I'm just adding all my wet ingredients first, adding my milk, adding my peanut butter, and then I'm going to mix in the rest of the dry ingredients. And it turns out to look like a stiff dough, but it is going to be delicious, I promise you, with those 2 sticks of butter. And then we're going to bake these at 350 degrees. And I always hesitate to tell people how long to cook them because everybody's ovens are different. But I'm going to cook mine for probably about 6 to 7 minutes. I also just like to lay a piece of parchment paper or wax paper in my freezer, dip a few in there, close the freezer, let it freeze up a little bit, and then put them in baggies for later. I ended up cooking these longer than I told you, but it's going to depend on your oven, and I honestly think these baking sheets make it take a little bit longer too. So I hope you enjoy.